I mean, I guess this is fine. Seems like at this point they just figured, what do we got left over? Alright, pick that one. Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe was on the Nintendo Switch after all, and the Super Acorn was the hot new item in that game. That's all I really got. There's nothing else that exciting about this. And I'm not even somebody that thinks that the new Super Mario Bros. Series was bad. I actually enjoyed them quite a bit. But I feel like this one would have fit in better with the vibe when they were throwing around propellers and rocks and moons and turnips. It's fine, it is what it is. There's nothing really nuts about this Acorn being included. Although I will say I have always liked the design of this one. Generally speaking, the mushroom-based power-ups always have a more smoothed out chin. They all look the exact same. This one's got that elongated, chiseled jawline, like it's the long-lost child of Henry Cavill. Although I might be onto something there because when you grab this you can somewhat fly. Not quite Superman levels, but close enough. I will be completely honest, through most of the emblem discussions prior to this one, I was just making things up. Not sure if you could tell. Even if it was true, it was something that was just based off my memory. For the most part, I didn't really need to do any research, because I didn't care if I was right or wrong. But for the Super Acorn, I have nothing to talk about. And apparently neither do any of the Super Mario wikis. I did learn that these flying squirrels are called waddle wings, but that's about it. I almost wish this was the last emblem used because then I could use the time that I usually allot to speaking about the emblem to actually finalizing the discussion on the courses and tracks and Grand Prix. But no, either I'm going to have an extra long segment with the finale, or I'm just going to add an extra segment at the end where I look at all the data. Speaking of which, here's the current score up on the screen. If you're new around here, where the hell have you been for the past 23 days? Link to the playlist is in the description. Alright, let's get right into it. The 23rd Grand Prix in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the Acorn Cup, starts off with Rome Avanti from Tour. I'm sure I butchered that pronunciation. Followed by DK Mountain from the GameCube. Followed by Daisy Circuit from the Nintendo Wii. And closing off with Piranha Plant Cove, which is a new track, allegedly. So I actually think this is one of the more confusing tracks to get around. And that's primarily because there are a lot of sections of road where when you're heading through it, you'll see other racers going the opposite way. I like the nighttime setting and the theming all around, but this kind of feels like if you took what was in Athens and threw it into a city. Whereas in the Athens one, it felt like you were more in the ancient ruins. I think the track layout was pretty good, and I also like the appearance of Chain Chomp and those enemies with the crazy eyes and the big beard. But for the most part, this is a one-pointer for me as I feel like it doesn't really do enough. Feels like there aren't really enough stage gimmicks or any obstacles in the way to make it exciting. Yeah, it's fun, I'll play it if it comes up, I won't actively go on my way to avoid it, but I don't think I'll actively go on my way to select it either. Up next is the GameCube's DK Mountain. So DK Mountain is basically DK Summit but without the snow. The aesthetics here actually appeal more to me as a result. It's got a few half-pipes in there, but not quite as many as the Wii track, since that one is based more off of skiing down a mountain. This one does compensate for it by having a few more turns in there, but keep in mind the roads here are a lot more open than the ones in the Summit that were blocked off by deeper snow. So while it feels like this is basically the exact same track as that one, and you'd think maybe I gotta choose one or the other, no, I don't think that's the case for me. I think they're both fun, and I think the visual change and the slight alterations are enough to make me enjoy both of them. Is it kind of lame that we have two of the exact same track in the game? Yeah, but at least they're fun, and they look different enough where it freshens up the experience a little bit. It's still 3 points regardless of which one I'm picking. More importantly is the discussion about whether I think DK Mountain is better than DK Summit. In which case the answer is pretty clear. I choose Mount Wario. 3 points for the mountain, let's move on. Daisy's Circuit feels more like a tour track than most of the tour tracks themselves. Weirdly enough, one of the most interesting things about this one that sticks out to me is when you can actually jump on the sidewalk and drive. I'm not sure why, I always thought that was kind of cool. Of course, you got the Luigi and Daisy statue, the fun sunset vibe of it all. But that's about it for me. I don't think too highly of this one, but I don't have much to say about it either. I mean, the visuals are nice, it's from the Wii, so that's good. But this is about as tame as it gets for me. It's a one-pointer, but nothing really exciting going on. And wrapping it all up, we have Piranha Plant Cove. This is one of the new tracks that, you know, they're made for Mario Kart Tour, but they claim they're new. I'm really stressing this because in the previous segments I really wasn't mentioning it all that much. I was just saying new because that's what the game labels it as. But I guess at some point I do have to mention this is all a sham. Just doing the same thing over and over again. Speaking of which, Piranha Plant Cove feels like Piranha Plant Slide, but in the map of a tour track. Like an actual city tour track, just one that happens to be designed underwater instead. All the popular elements are there. The red arrows, the different routes you take on every lap, all of the different twists and turns you can make to get around. I think it's well designed, and if you actually compare it to the other tour tracks, it's one of the better ones in my opinion. And I think it is the most difficult track to get through in the Grand Prix, even if it's not really all that difficult. I have heard that this is a phenomenal one to time trial in, and there are a ton of shortcuts that you can get through if you get really good at it. So more advanced Mario Karters might enjoy this one a lot more than I do. But I don't know. Something about this one just doesn't sit right with me. And it might be the generational Unagi eel trauma. This just feels like it's done better elsewhere, with the style of map being done better in some of the other city tours. And even the visuals, while good for the booster course tracks, not quite living up to some of my favorite underwater sections like in Dolphin Shoals, for example. This is yet again a one-pointer. Honestly, this is one of the most underwhelming Grand Prix in the game. And it just feels like every single thing here has been done and done better elsewhere. The Rome track looks like the Athens track, but the Athens track was more fun to look at. And the Rome track itself doesn't really offer too much to wow me. DK Mountain is a three-pointer, but this has been done. Daisy Circuit looks like it could be any of the tour tracks. Paris comes to mind. And it's pretty tame and simple. And Piranha Plant Cove, while, being underwater is cool, but aside from that, it just feels like it's been done, either in the map layout or in the visuals. Both Rome Avanti and Piranha Plant Cove have that whole thing where you split off between laps and have different routes. And a lot of Daisy Circuit feels like it could have been in Rome Avanti if it was daytime. I just feel like not only is there not enough diversity between the tracks here, there's not enough diversity from this cup with the rest of the game. It's so underwhelming. I mean, I might have said Piranha Plant Cove is the most difficult track, but none of these are difficult. None of them are exciting. Do I give them a difficulty curve point and say that it upticks in difficulty, or do I give them no points because the difficulty curve is a straight horizontal line effectively? And the worst part is I don't even feel like it necessarily did anything bad. All of these tracks have a lot of fun to offer. I mean, they're Mario Kart 8 Deluxe tracks. Why wouldn't they be fun? Why wouldn't it be fun to do the same thing again if you enjoyed it the first 1, 2, 3, or 4 times? Why wouldn't it be fun to have tracks that are pretty easy to get used to, but fun to time trial and master and become the best at? Why is something looked down upon even though it might still be very good just because it was similar to something that came before it? And why is it that even though these objectively look good, they feel so bland? It just feels like this far along in the game, in the series, we expect more. I expected more. And I felt like I was just doing it again, doing the exact same thing again. And I can't tell you what it is exactly about it that makes me dislike it. But oh my god, I just realized why they called this one the Acorn Cup. This is the new Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe Grand Prix! I can't believe I couldn't see it before! Not enough to distinguish different parts of the game from others. Check. Not enough to distinguish it from the entire series. Check, 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 check. That's why they called it the Acorn Cup. Now I'm starting to understand the logic behind these geniuses. It took us 23 videos to get there, but I finally realized that somebody was actually a genius up there when they were matching the emblems with the tracks. And I take my hat off to them. This might be the most individual brilliant thing I have ever seen in video game history. This is that memorable, that iconic attention to detail that we all know and love Nintendo for. Wow. I'm not gonna call this one the Acorn Cup anymore. This is the new Super Mario Bros. Cup, baby. Are they good? Nah. Are they unique? No. Will they be fun to play? Well, obviously. But will they stand out to your memory? Absolutely not. Rome Avante, 1 point. DK Mountain, 3 points. Daisy Circuit, 1 point. Piranha Plant Cove, 1 point. Difficulty curve, 0 points. Nothing in this is difficult. A curve requires it to get harder as you go through it. This one just stays horizontally easy the entire time. Diversity, I almost want to give it negative points because there is nothing diverse about this one, not in relation to the tracks in this Grand Prix, nor in relation to the entire game. But if you want the serious answer, it's getting a 0 because Daisy Circuit and Rome Avanti and Piranha Plant Cove have way too much in common with one another. primarily being the samey feel between Piranha Plant Cove and Romavanti's map layouts, and the general aesthetics and feel of Daisy Circuit when compared to Romavanti, just one of them being daytime and the other one being nighttime. DK Mountain alone cannot bring up the average, unfortunately, especially when you consider the fact that there's another track in the game that is almost the exact same thing as it. This one is getting 6 points. And quite frankly, it's lucky that I like DK Mountain as much as I did. If it was mimicking anything other than DK Summit, it would have gotten 0 points because I would have just said it's better to go play that one instead of this one. But for the most part, I would never click on the Acorn Cup to actually just play the cup itself. I might not even click on DK Mountain, even though it's a track that I love. Whenever these will get selected, I'll play them and I'll have fun playing them. I'm not going to throw a hissy fit about them. But that's about all I can say here. 6 points. The absolute worst Grand Prix in the game, unless the Spiny Cup turns out to be terrible. And I'm pretty confident in that decision too. This Grand Prix might be suffering because it comes so late in the Booster Course Pass. But I think it's more than just that. And for the record, I do love the new Super Mario Bros. Series. But even I'm not blind to how repetitive and mundane it can get. And you might believe me, you might not believe me, but when I was going through these tracks, I was not planning on making a whole comparison with these tracks in the new Super Mario Bros. Series. That just happily fell into my lap during production. And I'm glad it did too, because otherwise this would be so lame that I would not have enough to talk about. But I think that's enough of that. Next we'll be covering the final cup in the game, the Spiny Cup.